Today we've got questions about bread, we got questions about currants and eggs. Thanks for joining us today on Question and Answers with Jas Townsend and Son. I really want to thank everyone out there. We've just gone over 20,000 subscribers to our YouTube channel and more than 2.5 million channel views. That is so encouraging. Thank you so much for watching the channel, subscribing, and your great questions and comments. So my first question today comes from Christopher Mays, and he's asking a question on the honey gingerbread series. He's asking about chicken eggs, and specifically whether or not eggs in the 18th century were smaller. And he says, when you make recipes using eggs, do you adjust your recipe, or did they have large eggs then too? Does it even matter? So it really depends on the recipe. If the recipe used a lot of eggs, say 20 eggs, that's going to make a large portion of the recipe. So I think it was food historian Karen Hess who suggested using medium-sized chicken eggs in 18th century recipes to help adjust for that. If there's only 1 or 2 eggs, it probably doesn't make that much difference. But if it's a major component, definitely try medium eggs. So our next question is Mike Croft, and he's also asking a question on the honey gingerbread recipe. He says, does pearl ash require heat to start the leavening process? It seems to be inactive when first mixed. And also, I'd like to know if you can taste the pearl ash. Well, yes, it does seem to be less reactive when you first mix it, and I do believe it becomes more and more reactive as it heats up. So when you first mix it, it isn't quite like vinegar and baking soda that just fizzes right up. It takes a little time for it to really get started going, and definitely the heat is what really makes that reaction start to happen. So you're going to get a little reaction at first, but the major reaction is going to happen as it heats up. So it will give you a metallic taste if you use too much. In the recipes we've done so far, I haven't detected any of that metallic taste at all. Cthulhu03 asks, you've often mentioned ribes currants in your recipes, but I've not been able to find a supplier for them. Can you recommend one? I would recommend Northwest Wild Foods. I'll put a link down in the description text to take you to their page. They carry true ribes currants dried form. They are very difficult to find. If you do a simple search for dried currants, 99% of them are going to be Zante currants. Even though they look like they might be the right thing, make sure to read through the description. More than likely they'll mention grapes or Zante or different kinds of keywords in the description, so they aren't the true currants that we're looking for, the ribes currants. They definitely have a very different flavor, so I would suggest searching them out if you can find them. So the last question or comment we've got here is from the Poison in Your Bread video, part of the chemical leavening series that we're doing. It's Shinka, and she says, acorn flour is not a bad thing to add to flour. Personally, I like the flavor they give, that it gives the rest. OMG, scare me. I do add alum to some sourdough breads to increase the tang in the starter culture. Well, it's a tricky series to do, and it's kind of difficult to address here in a really short form. But what I want to say here is that we were discussing an 18th century problem, and that was the bread adulterants that were happening at that time and how it related to chemical leavening. But small portions of any of these, some of the things that they were adding to bread were just downright poison. They were adding, possibly adding white lead, copper, sulfate, both of those things, very, very poisonous. No one today would put that in any kind of food product. They also were adding some other things that were not as terrible. And even today, we'll find some of those same things being added to our food as enhancements. If you were adding in acorn flour, that's not a bad thing for you. The bad thing that was happening is that the public did not know these things were being added to their flour. They were being, number one, cheated. If you were adding chalk, sawdust, acorn flour, to breads, and you weren't telling people that, and you were charging them a full price, then that was a bad thing. It was also affecting their health because bread was likely a very large portion of their diet. And so they were eating things that they didn't know, and it was affecting their health. So eating a lot of chalk in your bread is going to damage, it's going to do things to your stomach. It's going to do bad things. So that's what we were trying to get at. Keep watching that series. There's so much to learn about something as simple as bread in the 18th century. So once more, I really want to thank all you viewers out there. You're so encouraging. You know, the new subscribers, the great views. It is so great. Thanks so much for watching. If you've got questions, whether it's related to our 18th century cooking series, the 18th century in general, to Jas Townsend and Son and our products, any of those kinds of questions, I would love to hear. Make sure to give us your questions in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, you can see our website and request a print catalog.